Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Guys, we are 12 days away from kickoff. That's crazy. So tell us where you're checking in from. Tell us what you're drinking. Get your questions in. And then, of course, tell us your favorite number 12. And, guys, I think most people are going to answer one of two people. And make a case for either one of them here. We're going to start with this guy, one of the best defensive backs ever for the Longhorns, Earl Thomas.
His play against Oklahoma State remains one of the best plays I've seen. One of the smartest, most intuitive plays, interceptions I've seen. I think that combined with Jordan Shipley's kickoff return against OU, Earl's interception against Sam Bradford put Texas back in that game too. The one that Texas won 45-35. Look, 12 days away. I don't care, man. Show me the next number 12 because I know who it is, Blake.
I was about to say it should be an easy one there. Colt McCoy.
Look, you can say what you want. It's hard to put up a career as good as Colt McCoy did, the way he represented the University of Texas, the way he's represented the University of Texas going forward too. Now one of the faces of the Texas One Fund. He's just Colt's a good old dude, man. Hey, Jerry, I will say this. Colt McCoy, not a lot of people remember this. Colt McCoy was 6 foot, 165 pounds when he signed with Texas.
Saw him his senior year in a state basketball tournament. He was way undersized for major college football at the time.
I saw him and Stephen McGee together. Okay, this was before either of them had taken a snap at either Texas or Texas A&M. They were together at the 7-on-7 state tournament in College Station, just hanging out. And I could not believe how much smaller Colt McCoy was than Stephen McGee. I was like, man, Stephen McGee is built for college football. Colt McCoy, he's not. And I was like, there's no way this 165-pound string bean is going to be able to do what he did. And he persevered and proved everybody, including myself, wrong. Now, I didn't necessarily say he's not going to ever make it, but he had a long way to go. But if there is ever a definition of someone that built themselves up into a college football player. I mean, you remember what he looked like as a freshman and sophomore, Jerry, and then all of a sudden he started to transform, and that weight that he added his junior and then going into a senior year allowed for a, double-digit college football or NFL career for Colt. Just a great guy too.
Look at Tommy Blake. I forgot that cover. Tommy Blake was on that cover, by the way. I forgot that one. That was a good one. Blake Monroe. I forgot Tommy Blake was on that cover with Colt and Steve. Even in that picture, look at that. I mean, yeah. Colt looks like a high school kid in that photo.
Right after his redshirt freshman year.
There's so many things about this. The two number 12s, Earl and Colt. Of all these number countdowns we've done, the one thing we can safely say is if either one of those guys had got hurt in 2009, they wouldn't have made the national championship. Either one of those guys. Because Earl Thomas had the greatest season for a safety in Texas history. 8 interceptions, 2 touchdown returns. I mean, I've told the story before. Will Muschamp once told me that his redshirt year, he's the first guy in the film study, the last guy to leave. He said he put more in the film than any player he's coached. And I need to check in the last 3-4 years. But I think that still remains the case. But he had either one of those guys been hurt for a long amount of time, Texas probably didn't get to the game. The other thing with Colt McCoy that was interesting to me is how his recruitment played out, Bobby. This is how recruiting's always interesting. Ryan Perrilloux, obviously very highly ranked, was committed to Texas along with Colt at quarterback. And as that thing got closer, if Perrilloux doesn't flip, does Colt McCoy flip? Because Kansas State and LSU are making big pushes for Colt, especially LSU there. was interesting because Ryan Perrilloux ended up flipping to LSU. Recruiting's very interesting sometimes how it plays out, and how at the time the highly ranked guy, you got to go this is what we always say, you got to go maximize your talent. And in that recruiting class, there's never been two guys that define that more. Did Ryan Perrilloux maximize his talent? No. I went to see him twice down at reserve, and everybody around that kid said the best thing he could do is get away from home for recruiting. He did not do that. And I think that legitimately probably held him back. Then you have Colt McCoy, one of the ultimate talent maximizers. That is so key in recruiting. When you look at that, who's of those two guys who maximized their talent and who didn't? But that's what we talk about all the time. But so many layers with that Colt McCoy, that number 12 we just saw there. Obviously, somebody brought up Shea Marin's, the most highly ranked number 12 to ever put on the Texas uniform coming out of high school. Somebody also brought up Antoine, does a great job bringing up names. Tony Jeffrey, huge catch against Kansas. He remember the big three. He was in the class with Roy, BJ,
Kansas, and Kansas State.
He was in the class with Roy, BJ, and Sloan, the 3 5-star receivers, and Tony Jeffrey made one of the key plays for Texas during that time.
His dad, Tony Jeffrey's dad, remains one of my favorite dads in recruiting of all time. And he probably doesn't even realize that. He was just a good dude. So I'm sure the apple did not fall far from the tree on that one. I want to mention this also. Texas obviously had its second scrimmage of the fall camp on Saturday. Longhorns got after it in the morning. We had some news and notes there. Jake Majors was out with a boot on his left foot. It's our understanding that is not a injury that's going to keep him away from any playing time. It was mostly precautionary, and he was out most of last week actually nursing that as well. We also heard that it was they wanted a kid. They treated the running backs with kid gloves. Jerry, a lot of people wanted them in bubble wrap. So I'll tell you what Steve Sarkisian did. He put them in green jerseys and didn't allow people to hit Trey Weiser or Jaden Blue. So that went on. We did hear a couple of other players had some good scrimmage, including one Matthew Golden. Golden, the wide receiver transfer out of Houston, apparently had his best scrimmage of the campaign. He did not have a great scrimmage first one, and so that was a good thing there for the Longhorns. Also, I heard Ethan Burke had a good scrimmage on Saturday as well. So a lot of news and notes floating around about that scrimmage. We have more on Texas football as well. Hope you guys are able to get it. The Longhorns go back to the practice field this morning at 9 a.m. Steve Sarkisian will speak to the media at around 11 after practice today. So we'll be there with news and notes from that as well. But look, all in all, we're 12 days away. That's why we're celebrating the number 12 today. And I can't be more excited. Literally, this coming weekend, we actually get some college football, Jerry.
Yes.
Georgia Tech and Florida State are in Dublin, I think, or something like that. One of my friends is a writer for Florida State, and he literally kissed the Blarney Stone yesterday. Apparently, they're doing their whole week vacation for summer leading up to that game. So we'll see what happens with Florida State and Georgia Tech. College football is upon us. The Longhorns, I don't know if I can wait, actually, just 12 days away.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with the Florida State game. I mean, they're 11.5-point favorite. Blake's going to pull up some odds and some things like that coming up on the Texas side, but 11.5 is a big number for Florida State and an opener against Georgia Tech in a neutral site a few time zones over.
Especially when they had nobody coming back from last year. I mean, nobody coming back.
I mean, defensively, what's interesting, I ran into the FSU D coordinator at a high school in Houston in December. He was seeing some players. I was seeing the same players. And I asked him, man, y'all lost a lot. How are you going to be? He said, I think we may be better on defense. Well, that was such an interesting comment because you were like, how's that really possible? They must really think they've evaluated well and have some really good guys coming up in the pipeline because I don't think they had the same portal success that they did when they really built that thing and overtook the non-portal Daboer. So it'll be interesting to see. But the biggest thing for me with FSU is Jordan Travis was a witch in the RPO game, and he had that QB run ability. That's out the window with DJ. So what are they going to look like offensively, and how much more pressure is that going to put on their offensive line? Should be a good game. Obviously, Haynes King, state champion from Longview, John King's son, quarterback at Georgia Tech, really came on late in the year for Georgia Tech. I think that'll be a good game. If FSU holds them down, wins by a couple touchdowns, then their defense is going to be legit for 2 seasons in a row.
Well, a lot more to talk about this morning, but before we move on, Bobby, will you let everybody know about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group?
Yeah, we would like to thank our sponsor, John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's a proud Texas Ex's Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are all UT grads as well. John's a certified financial planner who has spent more than 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. As a reminder, August is National Make-A-Will Month. So just as the Longhorns are preparing for their home opener in 2 weeks, you need to be preparing your financial affairs to make sure your estate will stay intact for your loved ones forever. So please reach out to John Donovan for a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can analyze your estate planning needs. Simply call John and his team, 972-707-4900, or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free consultation. Hook 'em, John says. We appreciate John and his sponsorship of Monday Morning's Coffee and Football.
Hey, I want to bring this one up because we have people that jump in on their chats from time to time. Tex-Mex Horn 94 going to the Mississippi State game. Need barbecue and great breakfast spot recommendations. I know the chat can help out with that. We all have our favorites. So barbecue is a real interesting argument there. That turns into an argument, not a discussion. Breakfast, I mean, that's a little easier for me.
I've got multiple breakfast spot recommendations in the city of Austin.
Go for it.
I'm a big Kirby Lane fan, first of all. They have one now on the Drag. I guess that changed about 5 to 10 years ago. They didn't used to only be the place on Kirby Lane, actually. I also love Magnolia Cafe down in South Congress. There's a place called the Omeletry I'm a big fan of. And then, guys, there are breakfast tacos literally everywhere that are good in the city of Austin. If I miss anything about not living in Austin, it may be breakfast tacos. Well, Longhorn football all day, all the time is one. Breakfast tacos may be 2. The lake would be 3, by the way. So,
I've seen we've seen 7 or 8 barbecue places being suggested already. So,
oh yeah,
Tex Horn 94, you're going to get a lot of suggestions.
Yeah, the chat is, definitely coming through there. Well, speaking of coming through, a lot of decisions coming up, Jerry, for the Longhorns, and Texas hoping to land a couple of them. What's the latest?
Yeah, with the flip of Cade Phillips yesterday to LSU, which there's been some comments in the chat, sets up a big week and 10 days of decisions. I actually wrote about this on Texas football. But look, we have Michael Fasusi trending to Oklahoma on the 21st. Then you have Nick Brooks on the 23rd. That one's been trending to Texas. He is now at Grayson in the Atlanta area. Is Georgia going to come back and get him over Texas? We'll find out on the 23rd, if not sooner. USC also in the mix there. Then on the 24th, 2 big ones. Jonah Williams, safety, Galveston Ball. Aiden Anding, corner from Ruston. Obviously, Jamie French is Texas or Miami. I'm going to go back to Jonah and Anding. Jamie French, Texas, has been trending over Miami. Miami's going to make Texas earn it. That's August 30th. Michael Terry, September, or to be determined. Madden Faramo could be September, to be determined. He may take it out longer. Right now he plans on taking it out longer. We'll see. Does he actually show up on all those campuses this season and really take that thing out to late into the season? We'll see on Madden Faramo. But these there are 5 big decisions for sure coming up here for this week, and then one next week before the first ball is kicked for Texas. I mean, look, Texas got to, for me, they got to win out on 2 of these. They need to win out on 3 of these based on some recent decisions. So Jonah Williams will be very interesting. I sound like a broken record, but to me, this is really what this thing comes down to is, will he be the first in his family to commit to an out-of-state college? Nobody has. Dad, either brothers. So there's that. LSU now has 4 guys committed in their secondary, 2 safeties, Cade Phillips and DJ Pickett, who both could be a corner or a safety. Obviously, Cade Phillips going to LSU because he thinks that's the best chance long-term to play corner, with Corey Raymond recruiting him the whole way. If it comes down to in-state, if Oregon it ends up being out and LSU, if it comes down, it ends up being out, and I'm not saying they are, if it comes down to A&M and Texas in-state, does Jim Schlossnagle put Texas over the top? Texas got the last visit. They didn't get an official visit, however. So where does that sit? Neither A&M or Texas has a safety committed in this class now. So A&M's got 4 DBs committed, all corner nickels. Maybe one kid that could play safety long-term, but no defined for sure safeties. So neither school has a safety commitment in this class. So we'll see what he does on the 24th. Aiden Anding, I think there's some push around Ruston High for LSU there. So we'll see. I think Arkansas has actually done, they've been recruiting him longer than the 3 finalists. We've been saying Miami was too far from home. It's LSU, it's Arkansas, it's Texas. I think Arkansas maybe has done the best job recruiting him. They've also been recruiting him the longest. They've got him on campus more than any other school. The question there will be, and this is where LSU has been going with this recruitment. I don't think they really care. They'd like to get him now, but they don't really care if he commits to Texas or Arkansas or Texas here on the 24th. If that's what happens, I'm not saying it is. They still have an official visit. They still have game visits in their hip pocket on in-state kids. So they'd like to have him in the class right now, but I'm not sure LSU isn't walking away from Aiden Anding if he commits elsewhere. So we'll see what happens, but there's a push for LSU there in that Ruston area around that high school.
Guys, let's get to a couple super chats real quick. You want to do that, Jerry? You mind if we do that real quick? Okay. Freelance Society, a friend of ours. Do we win the back-to-back Natty Colt's first year if he didn't get hurt at the Kansas State game? Brutal game. It was a brutal game. Colt went down. Then Josh Freeman, as he was wont to do, had one of his – Josh Freeman was a first-round draft pick that was a 50-50 player. And what I mean by that, he was good 50% of the time and bad 50% of the time. But he was so talented that when he was good, he could carry his team. And he had a good game that day. So, I still, Colt would probably tell you the same, that his nerve damage or whatever he got in the back of his neck that happened there, that then happened in the national championship game as well, 4 years later or 3 years later. Difficult. I knew Colt was going to be pretty good when they played against Ohio State. Troy Smith won the Heisman that year in Austin. He was the Heisman winner preseason. Ended up winning it. Colt actually played really well in that game, much better than I anticipated. And you could tell he had a little something in him that was a little special. I don't know if Texas wins back-to-back that year. They were good, but I don't know that they were that good at that point in time. The other one from UT Tyler guy, does OTF plan to go to tailgate at any out-of-state SEC away games? Arkansas is an easy trip to start. You guys are great in Hook'em. We definitely are going to be at Arkansas. I don't know what kind of arrangement we have yet for the tailgate. We're going to be at Vanderbilt for sure. It is a easy flight in and out of Austin, Houston, or Dallas, or even San Antonio to get to Nashville. So that's going to be one as well. We'll see if there are others. Obviously, we'll be in the Cotton Bowl. We've got some plans to actually be on site at the Cotton Bowl this year, Jerry. So that should be fun for folks as well. But we're going to be out and around. We're also at Michigan, by the way. We've got a tent set up. There's information about that. Blake, if you don't mind, put that in the chat today for people that want to go and meet up at Michigan. It's an all-you-can-eat and drink thing on a Saturday morning. We'll get going around 7 or 8 a.m. For the 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff. So make sure of that. UT boy, good morning. Hook'em from Emerald Bay. caught the biggest bass of my life. However, he had on an A&M jersey. Did I throw him back? No, I shot him. Cracked a beer, took it on home. What a great morning. Hook 'em family. Somebody is tipping it a little early this morning, Jerry Hamilton. Somebody's tipping it a little early.
Look, if that was just a story you just told, UT boy, that's even more impressive than if it was reality. I don't know. I mean, you need to tell story. If that was just a story, then you need to be the storyteller for On Texas Football.
Oh man. All right, guys. Well, some new Heisman odds out. Jerry, you kind of previewed this a little bit ago, but Quinn still sitting there with the third best odds. Starts with Dylan Gabriel, followed by Carson Beck, Quinn, Will Howard, and then Nico. Y'all can say the last name from Tennessee, rounding out the top 5.
I mean, look at that. Look at that. I mean, Carson Beck, Quinn, Nico, Milroe, Dart, Nussmeier, Wiegman, who I mean, we'll see if he's the full-time starter. That's 7 SEC quarterbacks. 7 in that group. Obviously, Cam Morton, Miami, Dylan Gabriel. Could have been an SEC quarterback, but Brent Venables went with the redshirt 5-stars, so he didn't transfer. That will come back to haunt Venables if Gabriel win the Heisman at Oregon and Arnold wasn't the guy. That's something to remember there. A lot of pressure on Venables. He backed himself into a corner a little bit on this deal. But I think, look, this thing's going to change early in the season. If Beck has a really good game against Clemson and the portalless Tigers, then he's going to jump up. If Quinn has a tremendous game and a win at Michigan, like Alabama last year against that Michigan defense, then Quinn's going to jump to the front of that line. So it's a long season. A lot can happen. But it's great that Texas has somebody in contention preseason for this award. And I think it's legitimately in contention. By the way,
say this.
Jackson Dart's the sleeper there. Keep going.
I want to say this. Where have all the running backs gone? Not a single running back or other position player in the Heisman odds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how big. So when Steve Sarkisian says, quarterback's the most important position on the field, look, when Earl Campbell played at Texas, running back was the most important position on the field, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when Ricky Williams played, even though Major Applewhite had a good year, I'm not so sure that Ricky Williams wasn't the most. It's just interesting how the running game has changed. It is all about the quarterback these days, man.
And running backs, the days of running backs carrying it 350 times for 2,000 yards in a season are long gone, right? I mean, that just doesn't really happen.
Deontay Foreman did it less than 10 years ago.
Right, but like nowadays, it's more like rotation. And kids are thinking it in recruiting. I don't want to go somewhere I'm going to carry the ball 300 times necessarily in a season. I want to go be one of 2 backs, save my legs for the NFL, shorter career in the NFL. I want to be healthy when I get that whole window for running backs and running back usage, I think has really changed the Heisman at the college level. Because it would take a pretty special back that a coaching staff's going to look at differently than where we are right now at the running back position for a guy to have one of those great seasons again. The interesting thing would be nowadays at the running back position, think about this. What Barry Sanders didn't start a game until his last year at Oklahoma State, and it didn't get a ton of run because Thurman Thomas was there. Nowadays, there'd be more of a rotation at running back with where we're at the running back position in college. So you want to think about something scary. Think about Oklahoma State rotating Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders in the 80s.
Hey, somebody just put it up there. Travis Hunter is the first non-quarterback at 35 plus 3,500. Shedeur Sanders isn't even on this list, by the way.
Right.
And a lot of people think he's going to be the second quarterback taken in the NFL draft. So we'll see. Ryan Nelson made a good point as well. The last non-quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy was actually a receiver, not a running back. So what do you say to that? Right? I mean, maybe wide receiver is the new position that people need to look at instead of running backs as it relates to the Heisman.
We just had somebody say, watch out for, I won't say what he said, but Ollie Gordon, because Oklahoma State has a ton of guys back. And they're in the Big 12, and he has offensive line, quarterback back around them. And could Ollie Gordon put up that 2,000-yard season and really rise if Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 and gets to the playoff? That's interesting.
Good stuff. Hey, let's take another super chat real quick. And this one from Jack. Thank you as always, Jack. He says, frankly, the Heisman means nothing these days. It's a quarterback love fest, not the best player.
I think to a lot of fans, some fans agree with that. But in my world, it still matters because it matters in recruiting. Hardware matters. Look, as long as colleges are hyping it up, it matters.
Hey, LSU is recruiting off of it right now, and they didn't exactly have a great season last year.
Yeah.
It matters. Profile matters.
And then we're going to do one more super chat here real quick. This one from V Brown. Are the defensive backs finally playing the ball in the air downfield? Has there been improvement in that area? Thank you, V Brown.
Look, I love how Rod Babers describes this. He doesn't think it's about how the cornerbacks play or how he thinks that it's strictly a by player decision as much as it is anything else. For example, Rod said, I couldn't look back. I was one of those guys that played through a receiver's hands. Now, that doesn't mean I was a less effective cornerback, but there are certain guys that have that ability kind of naturally. Nathan Vasher was one of those guys that could just look back and figure it out. Malik Muhammad, I think, is one of those guys. I'm not sure Texas has another Manny Muhammad in its group right now. So, V. Brown, this is a good question that of all the answers I've ever heard given, Rod Babers does the best job illuminating the differences. Some people play through a chest of a receiver. That's their best way to do it. Some people play through the hands, and some people are able actually to play the ball. And it's not that your coach teaches you any different. They teach you to do what you do best. So everybody wants DBs to look back for the ball. That's just not how some guys work. They're more concentrated on other things. And so it's easy to say that. I think when it gets to the doing is where there's a problem. And so, I always said the same thing you did until about 10 years ago. And I heard a coach tell me this before Rod did. And it's like, look, some guys can have that feel for the game and some guys don't. And so they just need to play through the hands. They'll disrupt more passes than they would get turnovers otherwise. And that's really what you want. And they're less likely to cause interference if they play through the hands and look back. So that was it. Good question, though, V. Brown.
Well, before we move on, I need to tell folks out there about HelloFresh. And with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. We all know that home-cooked meals are so much better for you, but you don't always have time to pull them off. But with HelloFresh handling all the meal planning, the shopping, and most of the prep, it's easier than ever to get dinner on the table quick and painless. And that's what makes it great. It's quick and it's easy. With school now going on, I use HelloFresh because I simply don't have a lot of time. And their menu is always changing. You don't get tired of eating the same thing because there are now over 50 recipes to choose from every single week. And here's the best part. HelloFresh is going to hook y'all up with free breakfast for life. All you have to do is just go to HelloFresh.com/freeontexas. You'll receive one free breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/freeontexas. And that's HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And then, Jerry, if you'll be so kind to tell everybody out there about Gooder, I would appreciate it.
Let me get mentally prepared for this. All right, I'm ready. Here we go. You ready? All right. Gooder has a new product launch, the Retro G's. These aren't the Retro G's, but these are what I'm wearing for this. Check them out. New vintage inspired shades. As always, your Gooders won't slip or bounce. Retro G's are available in 4 colors. Our favorite name of the bunch. Threaten me with a good time. Threaten me with a good time, UT boy. All right. Do it with your Gooders. Go fishing with your Gooders on. When will you be using your Gooders this summer? Share a bit about why they're the perfect summer accessory. I had them on every day in Florida, in the ocean, Jensen Beach, Stewart in July. This summer, had them on every day. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Gooder is giving On Texas Football listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com. On Texas, all caps. Use code On Texas, all caps for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, which you will not need, and 100% satisfaction, which I guarantee you'll have 180% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com, On Texas, all caps, and use code On Texas for free shipping. I wear Gooder. Doesn't mean you should, but you should think about it.
There we go.
All right, y'all.
You look better with glasses on, Jerry. Just saying.
Most people say that.
Well, Fansville has become a big part of college football over the past few years. And Quinn Ewers, fellas, in the latest Fansville commercial. Check this out.
On season 7 of Fansville by Dr. Pepper, the new era of college football has arrived.
What's it mean, Sheriff? The 12-team playoff. It's here.
And it's getting stranger than ever.
Someone's stealing our signs!
Dad, is it true that I was born a Tech fan?
No.
The landscape is shifting.
I hate my new conference.
The cast is growing.
I'm a new character.
And the game is changing.
They didn't put Dr. Pepper in this game? So unrealistic. We waited 11 years for nothing.
All aboard the hype train.
Fans are going off the rails.
Where you going? We're going all the way. Woo!
Because this season we're going full steam ahead.
Hey guys, check out my new tattoo.
Into the great unknown. Or are we?
State quarterback injured in practice. He's out for the season.
Does this mean the hype is over?
Okay, everyone off the hype train.
I immediately regret this tattoo.
College football, it's a Pepper thing.
Hey, it was worth it. I know Dr. Pepper's not a sponsor of this show, but that's good stuff. Quinn Ewers making a spot. I got to say this. I laugh every time somebody makes a national championship tattoo or a World Series championship tattoo before the team actually wins the championship. I mean, like, I don't know. How absurd can you get, you know?
I'm not trying to. That commercial reminded me of every Aggie season the last few years.
It's that. What is that meme they have where the guy's going up and then all of a sudden October happens and he falls off the roller coaster?
See if it changes. New coach, new strategy. Recruiting.
I love it, man. Love it.
All right, y'all. We got another super chat that just came in. This one from Ryan Nelson. Thank you, Ryan. He says, Bobby, Jerry, love Tennessee's recruiting strategy.
Pay the most. That's their strategy right now, I think. They got David Sanders, a big offensive lineman, over the weekend. Word is that went for over $1 million. I just don't think Texas is going to do that unless they think that it's a guy that can play right away. And I don't know that there's – I just don't see that happening. Not right now. We'll see. Texas has some guys out there right now that they really like, but those numbers are kind of absurd. So I don't think Texas is going to push in that direction. I'll just put it that way.
All right. Plenty of time to get your questions in, so please do so, and let's jump right into them, guys. Juju says, how has January and Sadir looked in scrimmages? What have y'all heard there?
January is having a strong fall camp after a strong spring. He is, if you listed the freshmen who are ahead of schedule right now, he might be number one is where they were thought about coming in to Texas and where they're actually at now. He might be the guy that's ahead of schedule the most, Bobby. Wardell Mack may be making a move. We've heard him mentioned here. I think he had an interception Saturday. But Alex January is had a hell of a run since he's been in Austin. He's we talk about talent maximization. I don't think anybody in the building is questioning his focus at this point. He is focused and looks like he's going to be a potential multi-year starter for Texas. Not saying this year, in the future.
Yeah, Sadir's looking better, but it's relative, right? The idea that you could get 25 to 30 snaps a game out of him right now is not possible. Maybe 10 to 15 at this point, based on what I'm hearing. That would be the upper end of it. But more is better than zero, right? And so he could be a piece of this team, especially against run-heavy teams. I would add this, Jerry, on guys that are freshmen that are kind of outperforming their ranking or whatever. We've heard great things about Anthony Smith as well. And we've heard great things about Jordan Washington. So that's a linebacker and tight end. And then I would add one more from this weekend that we hope outplays his ranking this year, and that's Jarrett Gibson. I mean, he's all of a sudden catapulted himself into being perhaps the most important freshman on the team. And I know Colin Simmons is going to be a pass rusher, and I know Ryan Wingo is going to make big plays. But are they relying on anybody more that's a true freshman than Jarrett Gibson this year, given the injury situation at running back? I don't think they are. So he all of a sudden has a big spotlight on him as a true freshman.
I told the story on Alex January. I was in Dallas going to schools last week, and I went by a high school that was in that district. And I asked about, anytime I stop, I ask about players they played against, right? And I specifically about Alex January, and this coach was like, yeah, I was one of the guys that voted for him for district defensive MVP. He had that level season for Duncanville last year. So he was a guy that made big strides from junior to senior year. Why I never get too overhyped about early rankings, prospect rankings. These guys develop at different times, especially on your OLs and your DLs. Alex January made big jump when he left playing baseball in the spring and went full-time into football and had that off season with Reginald Samples and the Duncanville team. Then had spring football practice, which he didn't the year before because he was in baseball. He made a huge jump between junior and senior year for Duncanville. And he was unanimously voted on the best defensive player in that district last year. Now, Colin Simmons had a high ankle sprain that did hamper him some, but that's a district that has, I don't know, everybody starting as a Division I player on your all-district team on defense. And he took home defensive MVP, which was said a lot.
I would add this. Alex Jr., you got to remember, played multiple sports.
Yep.
It's not often a defensive lineman or offensive lineman plays multiple sports unless it's track and they're throwing the shot or discus, right? Well, Alex actually played baseball. And so he wasn't full on. Now, he prioritized football, don't get me wrong, but he has a little bit more to go before he actually maximizes, if that makes sense. So that's a good thing to think about.
Hey, Blake, I want to hit a couple of questions, if I might. Kim has a question. Morning from Rockford, Illinois. Jerry, what high school games are you attending the first day of the high school season? Barring a change, as of right now, Port Arthur Memorial plays Decaney over in spring. That's probably where I'll be the first game of the year for me, regular season game. Look at the juniors at PA Memorial. That's actually going to be a highly athletic game. PA Memorial has a number of Division I kids on that team. Two that have Texas offers in the 26th class. Tank King, the middle linebacker, has been starting since he's a freshman. Really instinctive, tremendous middle linebacker, inside backer. And then Brock King, another King, I should say, that corner has a Texas offer. The interesting thing about Brock King was when I was by Memorial last year in August, I think it was August, maybe September, that members of that staff said he was actually a better player than Gilbo was at the same age last year. Now, Gilbo had that dog in him. And that kind of remains to be seen with Brock King. Not saying he does or doesn't, but he was a younger player. Gilbo had this competitive edge about him, which I think we've seen carry through at Texas here, coming off injury. So we'll see what Brock King does. Obviously, with Dekaney, that's Nick Townsend, one of the best players in the country, and tight end commit for Texas.
All right. Speaking of high school games, living rent-free in UT says Nick Brooks and Dia Bell will both be playing on national TV this Thursday and Friday, respectively. Give them a watch.
Yeah, so obviously Grayson, very talented, where Nick Brooks is. Nick Brooks also something on the Texas side, not just Nick Brooks, but Joseph Mbaktu, the defensive lineman that was offered by Texas last week. He's at Grayson, first year playing padded football, originally from Cameroon. He's been in the States a few years, but played soccer, basketball. So Texas has 2 offers out in the 25 class at Grayson. Dia Bell, here's one of the besides tuning in to watch Dia Bell at American Heritage, they had the second fastest 4x100 team in America last year to Atascocita. They both broke a long-standing national record. American Heritage, all those kids play wide receiver. You want to talk about a fast team now? Those dudes, and they're all juniors. I think the most of them are juniors. They have the one sprinter kid that ran 10.29 as a freshman, and he ran a low 200 last year to win state. Like, he's on pace to be one of those kids that could be a possible Olympian in the 200 if he goes that route. But they have the Bennett brothers. They have another receiver committed to Miami. He's a 26 kid that may reclass to 25. That is one hell of a fast receiver core at American Heritage. So Dia Bell, they talk about adjusting to the speed of the game. Man, that guy's playing at the speed of the game right now as a junior in high school.
And then let's do a couple of recruiting questions here. Let's start with one that probably a lot of people want to know. Kelly Horns up. Do we have any more silent commits?
Yes, but it's got to happen publicly.
And then our next one is going to come from, if I can find it here. I literally just had it. Oh, Tyler Rollo says, should we go to a slight panic mode if Michael Fasusi were to magically commit to Texas A&M?
Well, panic mode. I don't know on that. Not a panic mode. No. There was a push for A&M early in that recruitment. We'll see what he does in 2 days.
We still think it's OU at this point, right, Jerry?
Yeah. That's where the trend's been.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Magically committed to A&M would be, if it's not Texas, I don't care whether he goes to A&M or OU. That's just me.
I think the one thing, he's been to A&M more than anywhere else, but that was after that new staff was hired. Like I said, there was a push there to get him on campus at A&M a few times early after that coaching change happened. So we'll see what he does on Wednesday. I think beat by Louisville High last week. I think people might be a little surprised if it wasn't Oklahoma, but we'll see Wednesday.
And one other one, this one from Papa Horn. Is Brooks a college tackle or a guard?
I think that's kind of on Brooks. That I said this. I think he can play tackle in college. I don't think it's a lot that he does, but there's been a lot of guys recruited like that colleges think, well, sometimes they don't 100% know, by the way. We think he can play tackle if we get his body where we want it to, because he's got the foot quickness. He's got the length. He's got the body and the reactive quickness. He's got the bend. He's got edge, ability, and length. But then he's got to develop into that. It's going to be interesting with Nick Brooks because, look, Evan Neal started off as a guard in college and kicked out the tackle. Lael Collins, way back in the day at LSU, started his college career at guard, kicked out the tackle. So sometimes coaches play some of these guys inside in year one and then kick them out as well. If you remember, Cam Williams, when he got to Texas, there was questions whether Cam was a guard or a tackle. He worked out at both. Obviously settled on tackle pretty quickly. So I think a lot of it's up to these kids at some level that have the skill set are they going to maximize what they can do physically? And then the one thing that even the colleges don't always know about kids like this, and John Mills is one of those swing players, is when you stick them at tackle and they see Colin Simmons and Trey Moore in practice every single day, every rep, back-to-back reps. If they're seeing guys like that, they haven't faced those guys in high school. So sometimes, as much as we want to say, well, the college coaches absolutely know, trust the staffs, I'm just telling you, sometimes they don't know on some of these guys until they get there. They just know they want them as a prospect. They know the guy will be a great guard if he's not a tackle on the offensive line. And then they don't 100% know. They let these kids get there and they figure it out. Bobby, I'm sure you've experienced, you covered a lot of guys like that as well over the years.
Yeah, the idea here is you got to figure out what they can do in college. Leonard Davis,
yes,
perfect example, right? He was a guy that was so big, you had a hard time seeing him be quick enough as a tackle, but he was big enough and quick enough to be a tackle in college. Now, was he that way in the pros? That's a different story. But these bonus size guys, and that's what Nick Brooks is, right? The 350 plus pounds, 6'7", 6'8", whatever the heck he is. There's something that's not just your feet too. This is the thing that gets me. A lot of people think, well, he doesn't move his feet as well. It's also your body.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of college football is reacting with your mirroring, not just with your feet, but also with your body. And I don't know that you can necessarily see that on video of a game as much as you could in an individual workout. And I haven't seen like a Nick Brooks in an individual workout to know if he has that kind of body quickness and that kind of reactive quickness. That would be my comment on that.
All right, guys, before we move on, Jerry, your time to shine. As always, it's Manscaped time.
Well, this is the second prop of the day. Here's the 5.0, guys. Look at that bad boy. It's the Beard and Balls bundle. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and those private parts below are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6, introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0. This is a bad dude right here. And the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS at manscaped.com for the premium grooming experience. Trust Manscaped. And I'll add this for the guys that are on the fence about the grooming. This dude is waterproof. I've tried it. It's true. Great product. Manscaped.com, on Texas, all caps.
Thank you, as always. Jerry, if I can get that to come off. There we go. All right.
Oh, I don't need the visual of waterproof, and I've tried it. Jerry.
Wait.
I don't need that in my brain on a Monday morning.
Sandman should help write the jingle. Promo code Moonballs. I like it.
Oh, God. Stop it. All right. Hey, Jerry, this is totally different. But look, something happened over the weekend that didn't work out well for Texas. And that's Cade Phillips' decommitment.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't address that more fully here. The defensive back out of Fort Bend Hightower flipped his commitment from Texas to LSU. It's a big loss for the Longhorns. We talked about it. We really like Cade Phillips, to state qualifier in the 200-meter, jump over 24 foot a couple different times, good football player, all of those things. Looks like an elite prospect, in my opinion. What happened there that caused Texas to come out on the back end of that after he had committed to Texas initially?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting recruitment because his brother stayed in state and went to Texas A&M, had a devastating injury senior year, was never able to come back. Kenneth Phillips was his name, who began at Hightower. I think he finished at Fort Bend Austin or Travis, one of the two. But look, I think there's a couple of family members that are big Texas fans, and I think the academic athletic combination at Texas was seen similar to A&M in the older brothers' recruitment. I think Cade just at the end of the day believed LSU at corner was going to give him the best chance to be a corner long term. I think that's what he wants to play. That is where his mindset is, and I think he believes that playing at LSU under Corey Raymond, because Corey Raymond's the only guy that recruited him for LSU, is going to give him the best chance to play corner. And the fact that LSU already took 2 safeties, and DJ Pickett, some people have ranked as one of the top couple of safeties in the country. He's also committed to LSU. Now LSU's going to have to hold on to him. He's out of Zephyr Hills, and that'll be a mean recruitment until the end. But they have 3 DBs committed, and none are surefire corners at all, and 2 of them are surefire safeties. I think Cade Phillips saw his fit there as a corner being more likely at LSU than Texas at the end of the day.
Does that help, in your opinion, any at all with Texas, with Aiden Anding and or Jonah Williams, the 2 other DBs that Texas are recruiting right now?
Yeah, I don't think I don't think with Aiden Anding, that one's going to come down to does he want to leave the state or not. There's a lot of push for LSU. And like I said, even if he committed to Arkansas or Texas, Aiden Anding on the 24th, LSU don't really care. They still have an official visit. They still got things in their back pocket in that recruitment. So I don't think it necessarily helps. With Jonah Williams, look, I think Jonas, it's such a different recruitment that the football baseball combination makes that different. So I don't really think that Cade Phillips has any effect on Jonah Williams at all either. I mean, look, that's just me. I think the football baseball combination, I think the way they're looking at that recruitment is different than who's committed where, what position. You got to remember this family has been through recruitments. Obviously, Jonah's dad was a recruited player out of Galveston Ball, ended up at Houston. He had his son, Nick Williams, who's one of the top baseball prospects in America that was committed to Texas. I think signed with A&M because Texas didn't think he'd go to college. Then he ended up going pro baseball as a sandwich selection. They've been through these recruitments, whether that's at the college level, they have another son playing junior college baseball, or at the professional recruiting level, MLB draft, what have you. So this is a family that's very experienced in recruiting, and that their son is a 2-sport guy at the next level. I don't think they're looking at who's committed where necessarily, but I think that one's for Jonah Williams going to come down. Is he going to stay in state or not? Because nobody's gone out of state yet in that family. So we'll see what he does on Saturday. That's going to be a big announcement at the football field in Galveston, at their field.
6:30 Saturday night.
Yeah,
6:30 Saturday night.
Yes, Casey. They're actually building a new one. It'll be ready next year.
All right. What was the question there? Is Stephenville? What was the question?
Yeah, if they're going to have their own, because they've played in Tarleton Stadium forever. And then Tarleton recently made the move to D1, so they can't play there anymore. I think they did get some kind of special permission or whatever for this year. But they are building a new nice one right by the high school, and it'll be ready this upcoming.
At Stephenville?
Yes, correct. So looks pretty nice.
I didn't know that Stephenville used Tarleton State Stadium this whole time.
Mm-hmm. They sure have. So I think last year they actually had to go down the road and play a few games at a small 3A school because they had nowhere to play due to Tarleton having some special events. And I don't know, it was a whole ordeal, but it is what it is. All right, guys, we got some more super chats here. This one from Jeff Carey. Thank you, Jeff. He says, when are we going to start making offers to middle schoolers?
Well, they do in basketball. I mean, football. That happened for a short run of about 3 or 4 years, Bobby. Dylan Moses was one. There were some quarterbacks. And by the way, none of those quarterbacks panned out to be great quarterbacks, by the way. There's a run of that for a while. I mean, there's a few offers still out there for the 8th grade kid that goes to a camp prior to his senior season. That's just like, you're just going to offer that guy. But I feel like we've moved to a place where it's a little bit less in football, or it's slowed down to where I thought it was headed, which was a good thing. I was worried when some of these middle school offers started popping up. Not that they don't happen now, but they were getting a lot of national attention. ESPN was writing about him. Everybody was writing about him. And I was worried that was going to take football recruiting to a place it shouldn't be. It's too much of a physical development sport. But I think the fact that some of those guys didn't really pan out like was thought maybe helped get a little less coverage of the offers at a young age. Maybe Gronk obviously has got him some offers, yes.
Oh, God.
CJ Leak, Chris Leak, the guy that won the eventual national championship in Florida, he was a guy that got offered in the 7th grade after his brother committed to Wake Forest.
Yeah.
He was the first person I remember getting offered, and that's been, 25 years ago? I think Chris Leak has his own radio show these days. So, I mean, that's the first one I remember.
Somebody mentioned David Sills. That was one, a big time, out of Delaware, or offered by everybody as a quarterback in like 7th, 8th grade. Ended up playing wide receiver. I think, is he in the NFL as a wide receiver? I mean, obviously Tate Martell was an early kid, and I don't know. Did he go to 4 colleges or 3? Didn't really grow physically. So you can go through that list. I mean, Dylan Moses is not in the NFL. He was a freak athlete. Now, he had a couple of major knee injuries that hurt him, but he ended up being somewhat of a positionless linebacker too, Bobby. So it's just I would love to see the football recruiting process slow down a little because it's just such a development sport. But it is what the colleges are doing it. We have to cover it. It's not our deal.
Hey, a little earlier, folks were asking about SEC away games and setting up tailgates, et cetera. We're definitely going to do that. I also would have mentioned a couple other opportunities for folks if they have a chance to come out and see us. On Thursday of this week, I'll be at the Dallas, Texas X's meeting. It starts at 5:30. It's at a place called the Happiest Hour. It does require a donation to go, but all proceeds go towards Dallas area scholarships for the university and its students. Again, that's at Happiest Hour. I think it's near downtown Dallas. That'll be at 5:30, I think 5:30 to 7:30. I appreciate them having me out. And then Jerry and I, a week from Thursday, will be in the Houston area down in Webster at Little Woodrow's, starting at 6 o'clock in the evening, going to about 8 o'clock at night. We'll be down there for meeting folks in the Houston area as well. So we have a couple of other things going on right now. And then we also have our game day programming coming up as well. We're going to be all over the place here in the next couple of months. Should be a fun season, just 12 days away.
Hey, Blake, I want to hit this one. Papa Horn asked, didn't we offer a new DL this weekend? Texas has offered 3 new defensive linemen in the last week, all from the Peach State or the state of Georgia, for those that don't follow the nicknames like I love to throw out there. But the new offer this weekend is Braxton Kyle out of North Gwinnett, big body kid, over the ball player. He's committed to Rutgers, but Georgia also just offered him, so I wouldn't count on that one. The 2 other offers in the state, I think one is very interesting. Caleb Bell. He is the son of Kendrell Bell, the former All-SEC linebacker at Georgia, All-Pro. Caleb Bell, 6'3", 275-ish. He's committed to Arkansas. I actually exchanged some direct messages with Caleb Bell Sunday, and he said he does plan to visit Texas this season. Doesn't have a date yet, but he's one of the guys that says he does plan to visit Texas this season. That's Kendrell Bell's son once again. He's out of the Atlanta area. Then Joseph Mbaktu, originally from Cameroon, been in the States a while, was a soccer basketball player, first year padded football, organized football at Grayson on that same team with Nick Brooks. He's a Florida commitment. He committed to Florida. That was his first big offer. Spring practice kind of got him on the radar. He has since been offered by Texas and Auburn. There's some strong Auburn connections to Grayson football there. So Auburn, I think, will be a factor in that recruitment. Texas offers Mbaktu about 6'5", 285 with soccer feet. Like I've been saying, expect Texas to offer some guys in the Southeast. We're looking at Georgia. We're looking at Florida too. I don't think these 3 offers are the final offers. There are, and I counted it up Sunday, 22 Power 4 level defensive linemen in the state of Georgia in the 25 class. 22. A lot of those guys are committed to schools. This is one of the better D-line classes I've seen in this state before. I mean, 22 Power 4 D-line prospects in that state, and several 5-stars, top 150, top 300 in the country. It's why I say Georgia's the best job from a recruiting standpoint, because they have so many defensive linemen in that state right now, and they have other positions as well. They just have the most big athletes that can really move. Was what the state of Georgia has, and that South Savannah's loaded right now. South Georgia, all those areas. So I love that Texas is offering more guys in Georgia. I think in the future, Kenny Baker will be on those guys earlier. Now that he's established at Texas, I think earlier in some Florida guys, on some Florida guys as well. But Texas, 3 new offers in the Peach State. One of those I think will end up at Georgia more than likely. And then we'll see. Somebody asked, is Texas pushing for Jackson Blackwell? Lorena committed to Baylor. Texas hasn't offered him yet. Now, they want to bring him in. They invited him to a game, but they haven't extended the offer yet there. But Jackson Blackwell, pound for pound, one of the strongest players in the state of Texas. I mean, and can move. He is. I watched him throw the discus at the district track meet on my way to Dallas this spring. And Jackson Blackwell, 6'2" and change, about 305, 310. He can really move, and he is strong now. He's an explosive kid.
Hey, Bobby, a second ago, you mentioned 12 days, and we've talked about it quite a bit here. But some big news here for the former number 12. Colt McCoy is retiring from the NFL, and he's getting in the broadcast booth. He's going to be joining NBC for their Big Ten coverage. He'll be doing color commentary, and then we'll also be on the Big Ten College Countdown show in the studio as well on Saturday mornings. So big news there for Colt McCoy. And he also tweeted a video out. It's called the Colt McCoy story, that's attached to this tweet that you see here, but it's 25 minutes long. So safe to say we're not going to be previewing that on here, but everybody should go check that out. But yes, Colt McCoy retiring from football officially and will now be getting in the broadcast booth.
Look, is Brian Jones going to be doing the Big Ten as well, since he's with CBS? He's a former Longhorn. Obviously, they've been doing the SEC forever. And then now that Texas is going to the SEC, they switched networks to ESPN. Two of our Longhorn natives are going to be calling Big Ten action, I guess.
Look, all I'll say is Colt's not long for the Big Ten. That accent's got to be in SEC. He'll do the Quinn Ewers thing. He'll go up to the Big Ten, work there a little while, and say, yeah, it's time to come back home.
You don't see Colt in Iowa City, Iowa in December, Jerry?
Not by choice.
All right, guys, we got time for a few more questions here. But Bobby, before we get to those few more questions, can you let everybody know about John Donovan and what he does?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to our sponsor, John, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. As a proud UT alum, John has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas board member, and he is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas Exes chapter. John's a certified financial planner with more than 30 years of experience and expertise in helping Longhorn families maximize their wealth, minimize their taxes, and securing their legacy. To discuss strategies for how you can truly secure your overall financial future, schedule your own free 90-minute consultation with John by simply calling Longhorn Wealth 972-707-4900 or going online at longhornwealth.net. That's www.longhornwealth.net. John says, hook 'em to everybody out there. 12 days away.
12 days away, guys. And look, we're a few days away from first college football games. So Saturday, it begins with a top 10 ranked FSU team. So we're going to see right out of the gate where FSU's at, coming off a year in which they lost their quarterback. Jordan Travis would have been a playoff team, obviously. They lost their quarterback. They lost their top edge rusher, Jared Verse. They lost their top receiver, Keon Coleman. And then they opened up a can of quit in the bowl game. So it'll be interesting to see where FSU's at. Is it kind of, are they trying to play it as a redemption off of Norvell, off of that bowl game when so many players sat out? I don't know. But I'm excited for that game, because FSU's ranked really highly, but they're going to have a drop-off at quarterback this year. How big is the drop-off going to be is the question.
Okay, we have a super chat from Victor Aldridge, and thank you, Victor. He says, realistically, what are your guys' record predictions this year? I'm going to say one loss to Georgia, maybe a scare against Florida or Kentucky. But what are your thoughts?
I start 10-2, just like I did last year. And if Texas goes to Michigan and wins, then we kind of take a look at that again. But I start at 10-2. And by the way, if Texas went 10-2 and got in the playoff, that's a hell of a successful season, because this is a different world now. This is a different schedule. This is a tougher schedule than Texas played last year. So it's a more physical schedule. I do think having 2 off weeks comes at the perfect time for Texas and Oklahoma moving into the SEC, Bobby. I think that's very beneficial to Texas and Oklahoma as they make this move into the SEC to have 2 off weeks. That also helps your competition as well from a health standpoint. But Texas and Oklahoma are the ones moving into the more physically demanding league with better athletes. Just look at the NFL draft. It's night and day between the Big 12 and SEC, not even close, different planets, different stratosphere, whatever you want to call it. But 10-2 is where I start this year.
I'm 10-2. That's my prediction. I don't know. I think Texas is going to play well against Georgia at home. I'm a little concerned about. I'm very concerned about Michigan. Obviously, at Michigan still doesn't know how to lose yet, if that makes sense. Even though Harbaugh's gone, those players don't know how to lose. That tends to pay dividends early season. The other game that Oklahoma, I feel pretty confident in going in right now. The ones that worry me are Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M. And I know that sounds weird, but at Arkansas, they're crazy. Unless that team is just totally down for the count and Sam Pittman is out by November 16th, I think that's going to be a difficult game. I think that Kentucky comes to Austin. Now, they should not be a great offense, but they are a stingy defense. And then A&M at A&M. I think it's possible Texas is essentially 8-1 going into those last 3 games of the year. That's kind of where I'm at, and one of those might be a loss. Something tells me Texas is going to get to that, and then they're going to have to finish. They're going to have to finish, kind of like what they had to do last year.
Hey, bring the schedule back up, Blake. I want to hit a couple of things on this.
Yeah.
So here's some interesting things within the schedule for me is Michigan, and we're going to talk a lot about this coming up. They thrived in chaos last year. They had that common goal of playing for their coach who was getting a raw deal, show cause 4 years by. And their Connor Stallions, who's now a high school coach in the Detroit area. Detroit high school coaches, you are screwed. You are not going to be out-scout that guy. Good luck. You're done. So then Michigan, are they going to thrive in chaos? Last year they had the big common goal. It was them against the world. Is it them against the world this year? That's going to be interesting because their defensive players are really good. And the tight end's a stud. You look at Oklahoma. What's Jackson Arnold? There's a lot of pressure on Venable and Jackson Arnold. Venables let Dylan Gabriel walk. They're in NIL fully invest in Jackson Arnold. He was going to transfer if Gabriel came back. They went with the younger guy, recruiting Dallas, the whole 9. How's he going to play this year? Because Dylan Gabriel is going to put up numbers at Oregon in that system. So there's going to be Oklahoma fans are going to be sitting there comparing it every week. All right, Brent, you made the wrong call, or okay, this might work out. But that adds a lot of pressure to them. And then their offensive line. Georgia, obviously, Ra Thomas is gone, which is their number 1 receiver. Their offensive line is going to tell their story. If they have the best offensive line in the country, that travels on the road. But they have 3 tough road games against 3 offensive minds, DeBoer, Sark, and Kiffin. It's hard to win all 3 of those road games against those offensive guys that have quarterbacks all returning, by the way. Florida, running back just had a meniscus surgery. Obviously, it's amazing. They are Miami's favored over them in the season opener. That to me, that's a little wild. And then at A&M, is their offensive line having issues in fall camp? Maybe. Is Wiggins going to be their full-time quarterback? I guess we're going to find out. But if that offensive line struggles, then are they going to make a move to more of an athletic quarterback that they're not, if they're worried about getting Connor Weigman hurt, maybe? I don't know. Some things are going to have to play out for A&M. That's going to be interesting on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, guys, we're going to close with this question, kind of a follow-up question. Excuse me. Mike G says, we got such a burst of confidence and enthusiasm last year with the win at Bama. What happens to team energy this year if we lose to Michigan? Is the culture still strong enough to go 10-2?
I think last year it was more of a prove we can do it scenario. Now they go up to Michigan with a little bit more expectations, right? There were not huge expectations going into Alabama last year. As I recall, people were hopeful, but people were not expecting a win. This is a little bit different. Texas is situated differently now. And so to your point, what is the reaction if it does or doesn't happen? I feel like Texas will be fine either way. Obviously, they want to win, but they come back, they play UTSA and ULM. The one thing I would say that no matter what happens this year, they came back after that win against Alabama and slept walk for 3 quarters against Wyoming. You better not do that against a Jeff Traylor team coming back out of it. So perhaps this team can learn a little bit more about that sort of thing, that level of consistency it takes on a game in, game out basis, regardless of whether they win at Michigan or not. I'm looking forward to that from that perspective.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Excuse me. We would like to thank them, along with HelloFresh, Gooder, and Manscaped, all for sponsoring today's show. Thank you for the great questions and the super chats. Bobby, what you got later today?
We've got a bunch of stuff coming up. Let me think about it. We've got the winning drive with Rod, Coach Shipley, as well as CJ Vogel, as well as Stevie Lee joins us each and every Monday now. We also have Talking Ball later tonight.
Reaction from Sark's press conference.
Sark's press conference is at 11. We'll have news and notes from there. But stay tuned also to ontexasfootball.com. Guys, we've got a lot of folks over there right now talking a little football. It's a lot of fun. Please join us on the message boards if you would. Again, that's ontexasfootball.com. I hope you guys are enjoying that subscription if you have one.
And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We definitely would appreciate it. And then ring the bell so you're notified anytime that we post any content or go live, and you won't miss a beat when it comes to Texas news. So wait a
minute. I got to say this. We're at 56,994 subscribers right now on YouTube. So if you're one of the next 6 to subscribe, you could be number 57,000. So join us if you would. Appreciate y'all very much.
Guys, we just had a super chat come in. I got to do it since it's super chat. Real quick from Tex Beats. Thank you, Tex Beats. How do we beat Michigan? I already spent the money, so help me out here, guys.
Yeah, look, for me, it's too big. I think Jake Majors is the most important player singular. I said this before Bama game. I'm going to stick with it. Most important player singularly for Texas in the Michigan game, because communication on the offensive line, hostile environment, what the quarterback, I know the quarterback's the most important player on the field, but if you have pre-snap penalties, if you have a bad day in communication, if you have untimely holding calls, if there's confusion on the offensive line, sometimes it don't matter who your quarterback is, you're in trouble. So I think Jake Majors is the most important guy. Right side of the offensive line has to pass pro, because Michigan's going to go after them. They're going to test DJ Campbell and Cam Williams, say, all right, guys, y'all are young. DJ Campbell's year 2, Cam Williams' first start in a big game on the road in his career. We're going to test you. We're going to see where you're at. And then on defensive line, it's to me, first down, run defense is huge in the Michigan game. Huge. If they get ahead of the chains, then they can control the clock and control drives and can control the football. If Texas has success on first down run defense against Michigan, I think it'll be a really good day.
One other super chat real quick as well, guys. Slick Rick, thank you, Slick Rick. Besides Quinn, which player are you most excited to watch this season?
Silas Bolden. Silas Bolden or Jaden Blue. Those are the guys that I'm being told are electric when they get a chance. Now, I'm not saying Isaiah Bond won't run by people or Ryan Wingo won't. I mean, I think Ryan Wingo long-term will be a guy, but out of the gate, those guys have some juice to them.
All right. Now then, guys, we are out of here. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
We know who number 11